Vjerojatno ste već primijetili i pogledali izložbu ovih postera oko vas u bašti. Zapravo se radi o kolekciji koju je napravio Daoud Sarhandi Williams i napravio svojevrsnu vizualnu kroniku sa naslovom Bosnian War Posters. Pogovor je napisao Bojan Hadžihalilović, profesor na Akademiji likovnih umjetnosti i direktor agencije Fabrika. A razgovor vodi i Amila Handžić, također sa Akademije, koja se posebno bavila kulturom pamćenja na genocid u Srebrenici. Pa da slušamo šta ima sad.
Hvala. Good evening, everyone. It gives me great pleasure that tonight, as a part of this year's edition of Bookstan, we have an opportunity to talk and to present an exceptional book entitled Bosnian War Posters by Daoud Sarhandi Williams. And Daoud is tonight with us via video link. And good evening, Mr. Daoud. Welcome to Sarajevo.
Good afternoon.
And also good evening to Bojan, who wrote the foreword, as you said, and his works are shown in this edition.
Hvala.
And before we start this conversation, allow me a few words to briefly introduce the author and the book we will be talking about tonight. Daoud Sarhandi is an award-winning British film editor and sound designer. He is also a director of photography, producer, and writer. Together with Carolina Rivas, they have produced 3 films: The Color of Olives in 2006, Lessons for Zafira in 2011, and One for One in 2013. All 3 films have enjoyed considerable international success, winning over 15 prizes in the United States, Mexico, Cuba, Russia, Belgium, Spain, and France. And what is most important to say that this book isn't Daoud's first work about Bosnian posters. I think, and I'm sure that we are all familiar with the title from the 2001, Evil Doesn't Live Here, Posters from the Bosnian War. But the book we will be talking about tonight contains about 340 different pictures, mostly wartime propaganda posters, that Mr. Daoud and his team collected throughout the Bosnia and Herzegovina for the period of 1 year back in 1997. And what is really fascinating about this edition is that the author tries to explain to the reader complex political, national, religious, and social circumstances that preceded the breakup of Yugoslavia and resulted in the war in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And to achieve this, Daoud uses posters by explaining and clarifying the meaning of each individual poster, and also briefly presenting the facts about Bosnian War and the nature of Bosnian War. So my first question for Mr. Daoud would be, who was Daoud before coming to Bosnia? Actually, you came for the first time, you visited Bosnia only 3 months after the genocide in Srebrenica. And can you tell us what did you do for a living and what was the main reason or the motive for coming to Bosnia at the end of the 1995?
Well, that's a big question, actually. But briefly, I was a film editor working in documentaries in England, in London. Can you hear me okay? You can hear me fine, yeah? Hang on a second. Okay, is that better? Yeah? Okay, yes, I was a documentary film editor. I went to film school in London, actually. I never wrote anything. I wasn't a writer. I was a filmmaker, and you know, I'd never been to Yugoslavia either. I'd never even thought much about Yugoslavia. until the war started, and I was living in London in 1990s, and watching this stuff on TV for a couple of years, for 2 or 3 years, until I really started to get interested, and it was really, I have to say that my involvement with Bosnia didn't begin until Srebrenica happened, and as soon as Srebrenica happened, something also happened in me. I was so outraged, really, and shocked, and I was at a time in my life when I was able to leave London. I just finished a relationship, important relationship in London, and I had a lot of time, and I started doing some political things with trade unions, and eventually it just seemed normal to me, natural for me to come and to see the situation for myself, and I made my first trip to Tuzla. I went to Tuzla because I was working with a trade union organization, and we were helping the miners in Tuzla, and I came to Tuzla in October 1995. I came to Tuzla, where I met some people who eventually would help me with the book idea. I met a graphic designer and some other people, and I started to develop an interest in cultural aspects of life in Bosnia, as opposed to just general humanitarian food and clothes and medicine. I started to get involved with culture because I was a culture person, if you like. I was a filmmaker, so that was what brought me into the whole subject. And as soon as I came there in October 1995, I just kept coming back. I came back again 2 months later in December, just after Dayton, and I came back in the next summer, 1996. And in 1997, I decided to come back and live in Bosnia and try to make a film. And that preceded my work on the book.
And you worked with your team, your project assistant, Alina Bobok, and Steve Gordon, who photographed all the material. And we want to know, how did you find all the information about the materials, about the posters, about the authors of these posters? Can you tell us a little bit more about that process? Was it challenging for you finding all the materials?
Yeah, it was a huge challenge. It was really a big challenge because nobody had collected any of the material. I mean, some people had collections of their own material. Obviously, Bojan had all his work, and Hadžihalilović had all his work. I mean, each individual author had their own posters and their own graphics, but I didn't know anybody. I mean, I literally didn't know one person. So I knew one person in Tuzla. This was the Jasminko Arnautović. I knew Jasminko quite well, and I just, when I look back on it, I had this idea, and I suggested this idea. And Jasminko's girlfriend, Baisa, she just laughed. She said, you can never do that. It's impossible. She said, you just want the stuff from Sarajevo? I said, no, I want the stuff from the whole country. I have to get stuff from Banja Luka and Travnik and everywhere, And everybody said to me, no, it's impossible. You'll never do it. And I just started driving around the country. I mean, I literally drove around the country, and I have to say that Alina Bobok was absolutely vital for this project because she spoke a little bit of Bosnian. She's from Romania, but she spoke a little bit of Bosnian, and her husband, who's Rupert Wolfe Murray, he financed this whole crazy idea, and for 1 year we were just knocking on doors, ringing people up. This was, you have to remember as well, everybody knows that this was before mobile phones. This was really before the internet was not really working. It was really before email was working properly as well. And it was to say it was a challenge is a big understatement. I mean, it was just a mountain to climb. And I'm surprised now that we did it after 1 year. I mean, it took us 1 year, and that included all of Bosnia. Plus, I went to Zagreb, and I spent quite a lot of time in Belgrade, looking for propaganda in Belgrade. State propaganda, magazines, newspapers, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it was very difficult. Yeah.
So you just mentioned that you were trying actually to collect all the material from all three, if I can say, parties involved in this war.
Yeah.
And you tried to work on a fair presentation of a war in Bosnia and Herzegovina. What was the response of the other sides, except for the Bosnian side? Because in the book we can see that you have material from the side, all three sides involved in this war. And also, what were the reactions of the people you met? Actually, we need to consider the context. Those were the first post-war years, and the society was just starting to regenerate and to get used to the semblance of everyday normal life and peace, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, I have to say that everybody we spoke to was really interested in the project, and really, nobody said, no, I don't want to give you anything. Nobody. I mean, when you look at some of the, but I have to say, we didn't find a lot of graphic design from let's say Bosnian Serb side. I mean, we didn't find it because I don't think it really existed in the same way. There wasn't that creative. There wasn't as much creativity, and there wasn't that passion behind the graphic design. I mean, there was a lot of obviously passion in the war and in the fighting, but it wasn't. Maybe we just didn't find it, but I honestly don't think it really exists in great numbers. We found HVO material, and we found all that kind of that Croatian stuff from Herzegovina. We found some quite radical material there, but again, it doesn't have the. It simply doesn't have the quality, the artistic quality and the artistic vision of the stuff that we found, on the Bosniak side, let's say. I never know. I still, after 25 years, I still don't know what to call people really in Bosnia. I have to be very careful. But but I have to say, surprisingly, nobody just closed the door on us. I mean, everybody we spoke to, nobody was. The thing is this, nobody was ashamed of what they'd done. Nobody was embarrassed by it. The most extraordinary thing is that I went to the National Library in Belgrade, and I explained to the people there that the librarians and the administration of the library that I'm looking for all this Milosevic propaganda and magazines, and they were so helpful. I mean, I was there for 2 weeks sitting in the library, and they were bringing me like piles and piles of magazines every day, and they let me photograph them in the library. They let me scan things. There was nobody who was trying to hide anything. I thought that would be an issue, but it really wasn't an issue. I found some, let's say, quite interesting graphic design from some Bosnian Serbs, I think in Banja Luka. They're in the book. There's quite a lot of them. The guy did say to me, one of the designers, he said to me that he didn't mind having his name in the book, but the other 4 people who were involved, they didn't want to have their names in the book. I'm just looking for the book. 1 second. Actually, I don't even have a copy of my book. I have Evil Doesn't Live Here. I still haven't seen the book. I'm in Spain. It's not so difficult, but whatever. These. I just show you because these guys were the people who did these posters. These were all done by some let's say Bosnian Serbs. I think they were in Banja Luka, if I remember. In Banja Luka. Draško Mikanović and a group of designers. They did this stuff for the Bosnian Serb administration, for the government, basically, for the authorities. And they were a little bit embarrassed about it. They were a little bit embarrassed, but they didn't say no. They just said, well, we'd rather you didn't put our name in the book, but you can have them. You can photograph them. And that was the most radical, I suppose, stuff that we found on the non-Bosniak side, And I have to say that Alina found those. I never spoke to those people. I never went there. I think Alina was doing some parts of the country and I was doing other parts of the country sometimes, So if that answers your question.
Yes, thank you. Boyan, go
ahead. I just want to tell you, you are really crazy. When I first speak with you, for me, you was a hero. Because you did something which some of us got to do it somehow. Either is it, I don't know, the government or some kind of ministry for culture, for remembrance. But we are the worstest case you can imagine because nobody is interesting for that. We still don't have that any kind of museum in Sarajevo dedicated to the siege or whatever. So we have the masters of post-war forgiveness. How can I say? I don't know actually why, because I thought always because we are really stupid and we are not enough organized, and we don't have the guys like you, because for me you are fanatic by taking something on you which is almost impossible to anybody. First, because nobody is interested about that. That's how I'm thinking. The second, nobody wants to go in the mud of our last.
I think if I can say, I think sometimes it's a funny thing because I've worked in many different countries. I worked in Palestine. I made a great film in Palestine, and everybody said to me, a lot of Palestinians as well said to me, how is it possible that a Palestinian never made this film? And I've done things in Mexico as well, with a similar reaction. And I have to say that it's I think sometimes, I mean, the only thing I can describe myself as an internationalist. I really am an internationalist. I really believe that borders don't matter when it comes to understanding human situations. I don't think borders are at all relevant to understanding, and I think sometimes it's easier if you're outside the borders to see things maybe in a clearer way. And I didn't have any kind of political agenda. I think if a Bosnian maybe had done this, they would have either been a Bosniak or a Bosnian Croat or a Bosnian Serb. And so automatically they would have been a little bit, maybe their vision would have been slightly distorted because that's the way things are. You know, I mean, that's the way we are. I mean, it's more difficult for me to do things about England than it is for me to do things about Bosnia. I mean, I could do something about Brexit, maybe, an awful Brexit thing, but you know, I'm kind of culturally too close to it, I think. So that's why I like doing things in countries which I don't have any connection with, because I somehow I see things with a kind of I don't know, a kind of clarity, you know. And
what is your reaction now on what's going on in Ukraine? Are you collecting the world's designers' artworks?
No, I'm not, but I'm going to Ukraine next month. Yeah, I'm thinking about a project, a visual project in Ukraine, but connected with street art, with public information, with government information, graffiti, that kind of thing, stuff which is happening on the street. I'm really interested in that. So I'm going for 3 weeks to have a look at 2 cities, Kiev and Lviv. So
good luck,
yeah.
and watch yourself. And but what is your biggest achievement from my point of view? When I first saw "Evil Does Not Live Here," first I thought, why is that headline? Because it's wrong. Because it's evil still lives here. But so we can speak about that. But the biggest achievement that you take the last train of poster on the paper, let's say, because end of the 90s and the war in Bosnia really had that culture of making a poster, putting on the street walls or whatever, and keep us, I don't know, more brave or sad or whatever, you know, and the communication go through the posters. And let's say we have the experience with the postcards because we gave it to the journalists and then they went out and so on. So you keep maybe the last unplugged history of the posters. What is your feeling about that?
Yeah, I know. That's something you mentioned in your introduction in the book, and it kind of never occurred to me until you mentioned it. You know, funnily enough, when you wrote about that this it's probably the last big poster production. You know, because now everything is on Twitter and everything is on Instagram and people are using electronic mediums and email and websites. I don't know. I mean, I guess it probably was. I mean, it was. I mean, I never thought that at the time. I never thought it. I was really not a digital person. I was a completely analog person, and now when I look at it, I feel a kind of certain nostalgia in a funny kind of way for this analog period. People painting things by hand. You know, a lot of the posters in the book, for example, wonderful posters by Began Turbic in Tuzla. All hand painted, originals, you know, like paintings, really, more like paintings than posters, and I guess that's not going to happen. I don't know. I mean, will it happen again? I mean, well, first of all, I hope there are no more wars. But if there are wars, then you know, people will probably use whatever's available. But I guess it's the last. I guess it might be the last big war poster period. I don't know. Yeah.
Let me ask you, Amila, sorry, because
It's okay.
Let me ask you, do you have the originals, or do you have the originals? Did you everything scan it, or you?
I scanned it. Well, no, we took photographs. We took Steve Gordon, who you mentioned earlier, Amila. Steve Gordon was the photographer, and he traveled around with us. taking, this was before digital cameras. So he was taking slides, 35 millimeter slides, and I was processing them in Belgrade, because in Sarajevo it was impossible still. So I took them to Belgrade, and I did the photographic process there to check them, But no, I don't have any. I have 3 or 4 originals, 3 or 4.
But usually
in a box.
people are making the museum of whatever, or some kind of archive or something like that. Do you think it will be good to have some space where you can find these posters alive, or it doesn't matter anymore? I mean, nobody cares here anyhow, but
yeah,
give us
well,
something.
I gave a lot of
our
posters
government.
I gave a lot of posters to the National Archive in Sarajevo, and they gave me a very nice certificate thanking me.
National.
Yes,
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask you, isn't it weird that you as a foreigner gave and donated all the material to the archives of Bosnia and Herzegovina, and what was their reaction? Like, you did the job for us, as Bojan said. And
they gave me and Alina a certificate, but they forgot to sign the certificate, unfortunately, so it's not signed, it's just, but I have it in a frame, actually, because I was very proud of it. I have it somewhere in my house. And
Shame.
I don't know what they did with that material, but it wasn't everything, because a lot of things we just photographed where we found them. We didn't remove them. A lot of people, the reason I gave them to the museum is because I didn't want anybody either in the future telling me that because somebody said to me, "Oh, you should keep them. They're going to be very valuable one day." And I said, "Look, I didn't come here to make money or to speculate on this kind of stuff." So I gave it to so we donated everything, apart from 4 pieces I have, which I just kept for nostalgic reasons. I gave everything to the museum, and I don't know what they did with it. It was in 1998. It was, I think, October 1998, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, we are opening every 40 years these archives, so we will tell you. No, it's crazy because we are really not caring about that. I was in London. You have Museum of First World War, Museum of Propaganda, Museum of Posters, big posters, small posters, everything. So do you have some kind of message to these people which you gave 30 years, 25 years ago, these materials?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It's just, well, at least it's all been photographed and it's in my book. I mean, and now all the material on slides is in Los Angeles in an archive. I last month I packed everything and sent it to. It's all in the Center for the Study of Political Graphics. So in the future, in 100 years or 200 years, if somebody wants to find it, they can find it in Los Angeles. I don't know, I mean, I guess people will be interested forever, because not all of it is in the book. Even this book, which is bigger than the first book, is not all of it.
Yeah, you collected over 700 of posters.
About 650, I think.
Oh,
it was.
okay.
Yeah.
And what was the criteria, as you mentioned, the artistic value? What was the criteria for choosing 340 to present in this edition?
Yeah, that was a creative. It was done. I mean, basically, it was done to tell the story, the political story, obviously, and the different phases and the different battles and the different political, the whole dimension of it. But it was also done because I'm an aesthetic person, and I just thought some of them were more beautiful than others. And it's a strange thing that you come back to. We always seem to come back to the issue of beauty, I mean, it's a funny thing, in my opinion, that that even when we look at wars and we look at conflict, we start looking for beauty in things, and that happened to me when I made a film in Palestine, in a very difficult situation. I shot it, I shot the film, and the film. People said to me, "Wow, the film is so beautiful," and I was kind of embarrassed about it, because it wasn't my intention to make a beautiful film about Palestine, about the Palestinian war. But somehow, I mean, as an aesthetic person, it's very curious, this thing. So the book, I'm very pleased that the book represents something truly ugly, but the book itself is a very beautiful object, and that's a kind of a contradiction we have to live with. But so there were lots of different criterias, and doing the layout of this book, because now I'm a graphic designer as well. So I designed the book myself. I physically did it on my computer, and I just enjoyed the process so much, and I really got the whole thing right, and so there were many, like a whole number of levels. One of them is color, another one is meaning, another one is the politics, another one is the size sometimes of the images or the shape of the images. It's just a whole basket really of things. I don't know. And it took me, this new edition, I was doing it for like 2 years. I was just like Boyan said, I'm a fanatic. So I was just sitting day after day and writing to Boyan sometimes as well and annoying him with things. Yeah. But,
have you ever thought about the idea of making documentary of that, or try to speak about the people? Because mostly what stays on Netflix, HBO, on documentary actually will be for the future. The books will be burned or forgotten or whatever. Sometimes.
Actually, but I think books are much more permanent than films, strangely. I think books are really, very few people apart from Nazis burn books or the Taliban. I mean, maybe they burn books, but nobody else destroys books. Books always end up in libraries or secondhand bookshops I did think about it actually, because you, Boyan, suggested, why don't you make a Netflix documentary? And I thought, yeah, that's a great idea. And then I thought, do I really have the energy to do that? And I kind of thought I got to find everybody again after 25 years, and who knows where they are. And I thought, I don't know if I could do that. Maybe I should have done that if I was doing a project like this today in the digital world, when I found the author of the poster, I would do a short interview with them with my digital camera, and maybe I would produce a documentary and a book at the same time. But back in 1997, that was not even really possible technically. So I lost the chance really. I think it's, things have moved on probably. I don't know.
The first issue was a different name than now. Bosnian War Poster, it sounds like a commercial headline that people exactly know what they want to buy it or not. But the first one was Evil Does Not Live Here. Why? What's happened with that?
Yeah. What happened with the book, or what happened with the title,
or with the headline, or with everything? Yeah, the book was sold out completely.
Yeah, here it is. Yeah. So, sold out all over the universe. Yeah. But well, that title came from a poster which was designed in Tuzla. I mean, the title was not mine. The title was a poster, and I found this publishing company in New York. I mean, it was published in New York, and I wanted to call the book Hearts and Minds, after the Vietnam War slogan. But the Americans, they didn't want a kind of reference to Vietnam on the book, which I can understand, because maybe it would have been confusing. I mean, and they suggested they liked the title from that poster. I think the original idea was was theirs. I honestly, actually, I don't remember. And I thought it was kind of, just a catchy, you know, a catchy, interesting, kind of slightly strange title, which would make people think. You know, but then people started asking me what it meant. And then I was really in trouble because I didn't really know how to explain the title of the book. But that was it. And when we came to do the book again, I think Bosnian war posters was Rupert's idea. He said, "Why don't we just say what this is? You know, like it's like you buy a box of cornflakes and it says cornflakes on the box. You know, this is what's in the book. That's what they are." So I think this title is just easier to. It's just there are no contradictions, you know, in it or strange stuff.
While you were doing or editing this book, what did you have on your mind? Actually, I'm interested in your target audience. For whom is the book primarily intended to, in your opinion, and who can benefit from this book the most?
Well, I wanted the book to be. I mean, basically, I researched the book, I wrote the book, and I designed the book. And I edited the book with Rupert. I mean, Rupert was really important in terms of helping me refine the book. And finally, I decided to put some photographs into this book, historical photographs and new photographs, which Rupert took because he was in Bosnia. And I made the book for myself. I mean, I can honestly say, I have to say, I didn't do any market research. I didn't, try to find out who was the target. I just made the book, which I thought was the best book to be made. And but I do hope that the book is relevant for everybody. I hope that the book is for an international audience, but it's also for Bosnians and for ex-Yugoslavians generally. I really hope that they that everybody appreciates it. Either they appreciate the history, or they appreciate the story, or they just like looking through it, or I think for Bosnians, it will bring back a lot of memories, maybe a lot of bad memories, maybe a lot of difficult memories, and it should be an education for people everywhere about what happens when nationalism goes crazy. I just think it's a story. It's a 30-year-old story, and it's the story of today. It's the story of what's happening in Ukraine with Russia's war. It's the same story. I mean, the details are different, but the foundations of it are the same. And I think there's a lot to learn in the book for everybody, I hope.
I must say that I agree with you that these posters offer a new perspective of the war in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and also I can say that this is the most valuable archive of Bosnian and Herzegovinian design from the beginnings of the 90s. As we already said that we don't have, we have 30 years after, we have some posters, but this is the most valuable collection at one place. And also, I just wanted to ask you about its layout. You mentioned something before, but it's really interesting that this book, you don't need to read it from the beginning to the end. You can do it vertically, horizontally, or you just flip the pages as you wish, and then you puzzle all the story, and it's focusing on visual material, like the visual communication, and that's why I think the new generations should use this book as a place and a platform to start new research work for internationally and locally. So can you tell us something behind this concept? We already told, and our guests are familiar with the concept that there are so many different ways in explaining the story through the visuals, through the clarifying the meanings of the posters. You introduce us to the authors. You add photos from the 2021. You infiltrate the contemporary context. What can you tell us something behind that concept, about that concept?
Yeah.
Maybe if I can say something, it's so interactive book. Maybe it could be translated in some other medium, transferred into some other medium. Not documentary, but we live in a time of social networks. We live in an image, a rapid flow of images, and maybe it could be transferred into some other medium.
Yeah. First of all, I have to say that the strength of the book, I mean, the main strength of the book is because the Bosnian posters and the Bosnian graphic design is just so fantastic. I mean, it's still when I look through the book, you know, I've been looking at this material for years now. It's like my second child, you know, or my third child, and but even when I look at the posters today, I'm just astounded by the you know, the playfulness, the colors, the pain, the everything which is expressed in them. I'm amazed at what people did still in Bosnia in terms of expressing themselves visually, and that's the real strength of the book. My input and my stylistic input is another thing, but that's just to you know, to give the credit where the real credit is due. It's to the Bosnian designers. I'm a filmmaker, you know. I've been making films. I've been editing films, and that's really important because I'm a photographer as well, and I produce some films. But I'm a structural person. I'm an editor. I'm a film editor, editing difficult documentaries, and so I know what. And the key word in editing film is juxtaposition, putting one thing next to another thing, and so I did the book in that spirit because that's the only spirit I had. It's the only thing I know how to do, basically. I couldn't do an academic book about this subject. I couldn't write. I mean, I admire people who sit and write, you know, 500,000 words or 200,000 words, but I couldn't do that. I mean, it's just not my thing to do about this subject. So I tried to tell a visual story, and the emotions are there in the work. The emotions, I've helped through juxtapositioning one image with another image with another image. That gave, you know, it gave added strength to the work that was there already. And then, of course, I had to really research the Bosnian War and what happened. And I read, and I talked to people, and I lived there, and I read a lot of good books about the Bosnian War. And then I formed my own opinions. And then I verified those opinions with other people. So I had to do my journalistic stuff. But as you say, the main discourse in this book is a visual discourse, and I wanted it to, in a way, to be like a documentary film on paper. So you turn the pages, and it's like you're in a movie. I mean, it does feel like you're in a kind of a strange movie book, you know, like one of those Flickr books you used to have, where you flick the pages, and it's like an animation, you know. And that's the effect that I wanted to give it. I mean, this book went through a lot of design because it was initially designed in London in 1999. Like 10 or 12 pages were designed, where I worked out with a designer some of the concepts which are still in the book today. Then it went to New York. New York redesigned the book for months, for like a year. the structure was completely mine and Alina's. Alina and I structured the book, and we decided which images would be big and which images would be small. And then a graphic designer in New York worked on it for a long time. It was a very painful process because I was very long distance. I never went to New York, but we were working, by FedEx at that time. There was no PDFs, didn't seem to exist. They were sending me printouts by FedEx every couple of months, and then I comment on them. And then finally, 2 years ago, during the pandemic, I got all the rights back to this book from New York, and I started designing it myself. And this is when I started to integrate the historic photos, and I commissioned the new photos from Rupert, and those photos were, I think, work in a great way with the posters. Occasionally, you see real life, you see real documentary kind of information alongside the graphic design, because otherwise the graphic design seemed very abstract 30 years later, and it was good to put it into a historic kind of context. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And I'm just talking with Bojan. He wants to read his foreword for this edition, but before that, I wanted, because this is the first time we see the book. The book will be available in a buy bookstore really soon, but we don't have the exact date. I wanted to talk about the cover of the book. It's redesigned by Hadžihalilović, and his poster from the 1997 Aftermath Bosnia. Can we talk about, or can you interpret it concerning the content of this book and also the contemporary context of Bosnian politics and society?
I
don't know how to just...
Actually, I have to give credit to a few people for this concept. The concept to use Aftermath Bosnia on the cover was, I think, mine. This time, for the cover of this book. No? First of all, this cover was designed in New York, and I hated it. I mean, I never liked it. It was too aggressive. I wanted something much more poetic, and they went with this. They did this thing with the fence and all that, and I never liked it. And when I did the book again, I chose this Aftermath Bosnia, and then my wife, who's also a filmmaker, she said to me, "Wow, it would be really great if you made the trunk of the tree the shape of Bosnia instead of a round tree." And I thought, wow, that's a great idea. And I wrote to Asim, and I asked him if he'd do it, and he did it the same day. He was so enthusiastic. He redrew it for me the same day, and by 10 o'clock in the night, I had it, done. And I was just like, wow, that's fantastic. And I did the first cover, and then my graphic design went to the new publisher in New York, and a really nice guy there simplified it and redid the typography in Boston, and that's the cover. That's the cover. How it worked out. That's what it is now. The red, that particular color red, was my choice. I'm very proud of that red. So I don't know. I like that color. And somebody said it looks like Coca-Cola red. I thought, okay, well that's a reference to Coca-Cola as well, which worked. And so yeah, that was the way. And I think it's a very mysterious graphic, with the, and it's very. I mean, I don't want to interpret that particularly. Maybe Asim should interpret that more than me, but for me it means a number of different things. I mean, wow, it means so many different things. I don't even, I feel embarrassed to even talk about it. I mean, you know, because it's like me getting really into Bosnian politics, and I'm not sure I want to say what all the things that it means to me. But you know, it's very curious, you know, that for me that these green leaves are growing out of the axe. The axe is obviously nationalism. The axe is the destruction of Bosnia, and out of the tool of destruction, something is regrowing, and it's such a difficult thing for me to express. I think really, I mean, is Asim there? Is Asim with you or not? Is
Are you asking, is Asim here tonight?
Yeah, is he
No,
there?
I don't see him. No, he's not here.
No, he's not there. Well, maybe he should comment about that. What I don't know, you know, I don't know what his original interpretation was exactly. I never asked him. You know, I never actually
we
asked
have
him.
a poster printed
Yeah.
here, the
This
original.
one is the
Yeah.
original.
Yeah, this is also Asim's homage to a Japanese designer, you know.
Yes.
A Japanese designer. It's in the book. The information is in the book. It's a very, very important Japanese designer did the same image, and Asim borrowed it, and then I reinterpreted it with the map of Bosnia. So it's a big group effort, actually, from Japan to Bosnia to Spain. That's that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Boyan, you can read your foreword. He wanted
I
to
can
just to say
read
a
it.
few words and the impressions about the book as
Yeah,
a professional graphic designer and someone who teaches design.
I don't have a word how to thank you for all the Daud's energy and what he leave to us. I think for the designers actually in the region and before the war and post-war is important sometimes to look at that, all these pages and propaganda and so on. So I think really you deserved, like Bono, you too, he had that special passport, I don't know, Bosnian or something. So I hope
You can
one
give me a
day
passport. Yeah,
you
I'd
will
like
be,
that.
yeah. But mostly I would like, it's very short, the message from Sarajevo, how you call it. So Bosnian War poster is without a doubt one of the most significant books about the war in Bosnia, especially regarding Sarajevo. It reflects all the horrors of the siege in my city. The book captivates with unusual and hectic energy, just as Daoud did with his personality and the mission he had for Bosnia and Sarajevo. Also, book is probably the last document on war propaganda from the last century, a time when there was no internet, no TikTok, no fake news. A frantic rhythm of madness and emotion permits the book, like the relationship between propaganda, art, war, life, and Bosnian civilians' fight for survival. During the war, designers, illustrators, and artists use poster, leaflets, magazines, and newspapers to express themselves, to fight for truth, and to join the struggle between good and evil. Our work at Trio, dedicated to Sarajevo, was at first done as a hand-painted posters. Later, we printed the design in a smaller postcard format, intending to send them around the world to publicize the disaster and the siege of Sarajevo, the longest in modern history. Postcards become a unique part of our resistance. We tried to portray the soul of Sarajevo in a palette of dark humor, anger, and hope. there was a message on the back of the postcards. Hello, Lilian Rivas.
Sorry about that. I thought it was better to ask her to enter because she's a family of mine in Mexico, and she doesn't understand probably that. So I just let her in. Sorry about that.
You came at the right moment. So we tried to portray the soul of Sarajevo in a palette of dark humor, anger, and hope. There was a message on the back of the postcards. The document has been created in war circumstances. No paper, no inks, no electricity, no water, just goodwill. Bosnian War poster is not a romanticized visual biography of the Bosnian War, but an almost punky book about the good and the bad, love and death, the role of the media and the truth. Ultimately, it is also about the evil that still lives here, there, and everywhere. That's how I wrote about this book.
Yeah, it's a really nice text. Thank you so much for doing that. Yeah.
Maybe we can ask our audience if there is anyone who wants to ask something. Daoud, is there anyone who wants to pose a question? Yes, please.
I'd like to express my eternal gratefulness for being part of the team that... damn it. Sorry about that. Anyhow, let me repeat myself. I'd like to once more express my eternal gratefulness for being able to partake in the promotion of this book alongside Rupert. Thank you for everything, Dad. Unfortunately, we're unable to meet eye to eye, but what can be done regarding that? Anyhow, yes. Thank you.
Who are you?
Can you
What's your
introduce
name?
yourself, please?
Sergey's the name.
Sergey?
Ah.
Oh, Sergey from the primary art school.
Indeed.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't meet
Sergey.
you. I've never met you, but yeah, you worked with Rupert.
Rupert told me everything about you.
Okay. Everything. Oh,
Can you tell us about the work with Rupert? Just a few words to how did you help Rupert with his mission here?
Oh boy, where should I begin? Well, it was a fairly long process. I began helping Rupert with the promotion of Bosnian War posters beginning sometime in, say, late 2021 and upwards to late June this year. So that's a lot of time. And well, I mainly help him arrange interviews and help him conduct said interviews. I even help him arrange a talk with the director of my school, the High School of Applied Arts. So that went well. And yeah, I also help him to translate some of the interviews into Bosnian. We never used that material for anything, but yeah, it still went into my CV, and yeah.
That's great. Great. Thank you for helping. Okay.
No problem.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people, well, several people helped Rupert a lot. It's been very complicated. The whole thing has been a lot of work. Rupert went down to Bosnia to organize a crowdfunding we did. You know, we gave copies to all the libraries, 50 libraries in Bosnia. We gave free copies to them. Or the publisher gave free copies to them, and Rupert did a crowdfunding thing to pay for that, which was very successful. Yeah, very successful, and it was a lot of work. And Rupert was taking photos as well, doing interviews with people, with young people in schools and colleges. I think he went to Mostar. He went to, I think he went to Sarajevo, Mostar. I don't know where else he went.
Yeah,
he
he
went to
did so
Banja
many
Luka.
interviews with the young people from all different kind of professions and schools throughout the Bosnia. And if you are interested, you can see it on Instagram profile named Bosnian War Posters. It's really valuable work and the project the trooper did here.
Yeah, he was there for a year.
Is there anyone else who would like to ask something? Boyan, do you want to say something for the end?
Actually, we are welcoming you here in Sarajevo because I hope that you will come. And
I would love to. Yeah. You know, I haven't been back. I haven't been there for 20 years.
Yeah.
20 years. I really must come. Yeah, I really should come. Hopefully, I mean, I was going to come, and then there was the pandemic and all that stuff, I will definitely appear one day.
So you are welcome here, really, and I hope that at the same area we will have some kind of big meeting with you, and hope to see you.
Daoud also suggested that he could do one lecture for our students. It would be really great that we can talk about the book, because the book will be soon in the stores, and then we will be able to see all the content, and then we could talk about the posters. We have here some exhibition, but those are really a few pieces that we try to present as a part of this book.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure, thank you all for your participation tonight and being here. Thank you, Daoud, for being with us tonight. And I'm sure that this exceptional book will find its place in your hearts and your homes, and that it will be of use for the next generation and young researchers worldwide, and that it will contribute to the understanding and the valorization of Bosnian past and Bosnian graphic design during the wartime period. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much. It's a real honor to be in Sarajevo by Zoom. Thank you very much for the invitation.
I wish you a pleasant rest of the evening. Thank you.